Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Dynamics 365 Tech Talk. Today's topic is Dynamics 365 Project Operations, Project Management, and Time Entry. My name is Tim, and I will be your moderator today. Presenting for us today from Microsoft, we have Satish Panwar, Senior Program Manager, and Martin Walker, Senior R&D Solutions Architect. Satish, over to you.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another Tech Talk in Dynamics 365 Project Operations series. In this Tech Talk, we are going to focus on project management, time entry, approvals, and actuals. Before we get started, we just want to share with you our Dynamics 365 implementation guide, which contains a wealth of information gained from our collective experience across thousands of Dynamics implementations. You can download it today from aka.ms/D365 implementation guide for detailed insight into how your implementations can incorporate success by design. From an objective perspective, as part of this TED Talk, we'll be covering the project management as well as the project execution side. From an agenda perspective, project management, time entry, approval, actuals, and a couple of resources to help you guide in learning project operations as well. Here is a quick reference to the architecture diagram for Dynamics 365 project operations. We have covered this in our previous Tech Talk, and links are available in the resources section. A very high-level representation of how project operations enables lead to cash and record to report level 0 business processes. Please refer to our previous Tech Talk that covered demonstration of these processes from beginning to end. Here is a comprehensive view of project management business processes and what are some of the minimum requirements to set up these processes. We are going to be covering this in greater detail as part of our demonstration. This is provided to you for reference perspective. Next, let's look into project management processes. So first of all, we have project contract. Project contract in Dynamics 365 project operations captures and manages the contractually agreed on commitments and billing details of a project. The structure of project contract in project operations is tailored to project-based work with the following components: contract lines that can identify the discrete components of work that will be presented as high-level components on the project invoice. Contract line also helps identify and estimate the work for each high-level component or a contract line. The estimate include the schedule and the financial aspects for the work tied to that contract line. Contracting models and chargeable components are set up for each contract line that holds the billing arrangement for each contract line and the overall contract. There is a high-level view of what can be configured or what can be set up at a header and a line level. We will be covering this during the demo as well, but at a very high level, we can specify contract customers at a header level and line level. Line can have multiple customers as well. Concept of product price list on header, project price list on header. The important aspect here is, from a project contract line perspective, is the chargeable components, which is the roles and categories and how we can go about setting them up. Ultimately, during the project execution, based on the contract line details and how the billing classes are set up, it will either result in generation of actual cost and or sales transactions. At a very high level, we have few contract stages. So we have draft, we have in review, on hold, confirmed, and lost. The confirmed stage is the one which is kind of important if you are configuring project operations. Once the stage is set to confirmed, the contract kind of becomes read-only, and no revisions or change requests can be applied to that specific contract. So if your organization needs to do revisions on the project contracts, we suggest that you do not leverage the confirmed state and keep it in other stages. From a project perspective, projects in Dynamics 365 project operations can either be internal or for customers. And if the customer is specified on the project, then it's a customer-facing project. If the customer is not specified, then the project is considered internal, and only costs are tracked against the project based on resource consumption, which includes time and expense. Similar to the stages that we have on the project contract, we also have stages on the project as well. So here you can see the sample project stages that we have out of the box. So the project can move from new to code to plan, deliver, complete, and close. These stages do not advance automatically. There are business rules that can be configured behind these different stages so that you do not let the stage to be advanced until and unless there are certain criteria that are being met. Deliver stages is the one which can be set so that when the project is in progress. Complete is when the work has been delivered, but you're still expecting some time or expenses or other activities to be entered so that it can be either charged or invoiced or tracked as part of that project. And once it's all said and done, etc., then the project can be closed for good. Next, let's look at demonstration of how we can go about creating project contracts and projects within Dynamics 365 project operations. So I'll switch over to the application now. So now I am in project operations, and here's my dashboard. So we'll start with project contracts. So on the left side in the navigation area, we can move to the sales. That's where the project contracts are being stored. So when we click on project contracts, here we can see all the project contracts that belongs to me. There are different views that are available that can be configured. There are columns that can be configured on this specific grid along with filters, etc. Let's go ahead and create a new project contract. Project contract behind the scenes uses the order entity within data hours. So here we have the owning company, the company that's contracting with the customer. So in this case, let's say we have a project contract that we are creating for a data assemblies Los Angeles. We can specify the customer, the Datum Corporation. The account manager is automatically getting defaulted based on how my account is set up. If the contract is being created from an opportunity or once the quote is confirmed and then the project contract is automatically getting created, these fields will be populated, otherwise they'll be left blank. Important item here also is the contracting unit, which is what specific division of this legal entity owns the delivery of this project. The currency of the project, and there are a couple of other fields that can be defined. Now, these are some of the minimum fields that are required, which you can see highlighted with the asterisk as well. So let's click ahead and click save. Now, once the order is saved, there are a couple of things that automatically get defaulted. One of them being the project price list. So if there's a price list that's associated with this specific customer, automatically it will get defaulted onto the project's price list, which we'll be able to see on the project's price list tab. What happens is the price list is getting defaulted and then is specifically assigned to this specific project contract. So you can see here the price list name is US bill rates. So my price list that's associated with the account or at the parameter level is US bill rates. But considering this contract is being created, the pricing will get copied, and now it's a project contract specific pricing. So if there are any changes required, then we can just go here and just make it. Or if we want the new price list to be applicable, we can delete it. We can add a new one. But then it kind of becomes a live pricing, which means any changes that happens in the price list will be applicable to this contract as well. If you want the new pricing to be contract specific, then you can leverage create custom pricing functionality. Another point to note here is if you want to have different price lists, then you just need to make sure that they do not have the end date and the start date of the next price list do not overlap. Otherwise, you will receive an error. We do have a concept of customer. So this is the primary customer that we have specified on the summary tab. Now, if required, we can add additional customers as well. There might be scenarios wherein a customer is paying, let's say, for the prototyping phase. the head office might be paying for it, and then when the actual implementation starts, then based on certain percentages, the central office might be paying for that, and then the local field office might be paying a specific percentage. We do have capabilities of advances and retainers as well, which we plan on covering as part of our invoicing tech talk. Now, the important component from a contract specific is the contract lines. So what we can do is we can create, new contract lines, and here, project contract is automatically copied. We can specify what we want to do on this specific line. So let's say, it's a simple contract wherein we want our expenses to be fixed price from a billing method perspective, and then we want our time to be time and material. We do have option to select a project if that's already created. If not, we'll go ahead, save this contract line, and then we'll go ahead and create project and see how we can go about associating it. There is concept of included task. This is where, depending upon the selection, we can determine whether we want to bill or we want to classify our tasks. What tasks are to be billed, what tasks are not to be billed, and we can have different classification of these tasks based on the billing method and the transaction class. So in this case, let's go ahead just and select include tasks. So here we have selected all project tasks. Expenses will say yes, include time in this case will specify to no. We can specify the customer budget and so on. Now, once the contract line is created, we do have options to specify the chargeable categories. So if there are different categories, then we can determine whether, let's say, meals, if expenses being entered on meals, whether it's chargeable to the customer or non-chargeable to the customer. We do have concept of project contract line details, which means we can put in details of this specific contract lines in terms of estimate. What are we expecting? So either we can put it directly here, or what the option that we have is we can create a project and then leverage the structure of that project to create the estimate on the project contract line. So right now we only see new project contract. The moment we associate a project on the contract line, we will get another option, which is to import the estimate based on the project. We have invoice schedule. So depending upon what kind of billing method is being used. So in case of fixed price, it will be milestone based. So we can define different milestones that's how we want to bill our customers for this specific contract line. We can also specify the customers. So if only primary customer is being specified, we do have the option to specify it again on the contract line as well. And then a lot of other options. So if you want to look at what all is going on with projects, so there are a lot of options. So if the time and time expenses etc. is being entered, we can look at the actuals, and we can look at the general lines, estimate lines. So that there are all kind of things that can be inquired upon directly from either from a contract line or from a project as well. Let's go ahead and create another line, and that would be for time. So in this case, we want our billing method to be time and material. We can set all this to be include time, yes, etc. And here we will say all project tasks. And we will have another example wherein we will go into more details on include tasks as well. So let's go ahead, save and close. So now, so we have two contract lines, and they have, both of them have expenses marked as yes. Right now that's allowed because we don't have the project specified. Next, what we will do is we'll go ahead and create a new project, and then we'll associate that project to this specific contract. So we can either go from the area navigation pane, or we can just go directly from here. We can click on new project. So we want it to be there are these things that are automatically being defaulted, and we can hit save and close. What this will do is this will create a project, and the project will now be enabled or will be available in the project screen as well. And then we do have the ability to specify it. Now, as soon as this is created, since we created it directly from a contract line, now system is just asking you are updating the project references, so this will be automatically available. Let me cancel this changes. So the project is now specified. If you go to this another line right now, which is our time, and we try to associate the same project here, we'll get the error message considering we do not allow the same transaction classes and the combination of projects. Considering we have time marked on both of them, we won't be able to save this. So in order to make the changes, we have to mark. We can try to save this. Then we'll go ahead and save it. So include time here. Okay. Here we'll include time to yes, include expenses. We can set all these different parameters. Material to new. So there's a unique combination of these transaction classes that are allowed. Now, since these are unique between the two lines, we'll be able to specify the project. All right. So that's how we go about creating, project contract. Let's look at our project and see how we can set up, different how can we set up our project. So once the project is created, now we are at a project level. Once the project is created, there are a lot of fields that are automatically being defaulted. But that's when we can, now at a project level, we can start setting it up. So the first thing that we can probably do is we can start setting up the task. So project operations behind the scenes leverages project for the web, and that kind of provide desktop-like controls. So we can, we can simply start adding tasks here. And it's as simple as, this is a grid. We can put in the task name. We can click on assign to. Either we can select a generic resource of a different role. So let's say in this case, we are saying, we need consulting lead. We can specify the different duration or the effort as well on a specific contract line. So once this is saved, we'll be able to go back and start building our WBS structure. Now, behind the scenes, what it's doing is it's taking the whatever data we are publishing here, it's taking that and also saving it in the project for the web as well. And just in case, if you guys encounter any kind of issues with respect to, if the task grid is not loading, then you can just go to project.microsoft.com and just log in there. And once you're logged in, then you'll be able to access this. So here, either we can specify the duration or we can add a column, and there are a lot of different columns that we can add. So we can specify the effort. So let's say in this case, we have 10 hours. So we can go ahead and keep adding tasks, either assigned to name resources or, however we want to do it. We do have the ability to do, we can either make them subtasks. that's how we can build, start to build our project plan. We do have ability to move the tasks throughout the plan. So let's say in this case, here we have, and it's fine. We can move them up and down. If we want that task to be moved out. So we can do cut, copy, paste. So there are a lot of things that that are allowed, that you can play with in the system. Here we also have concept of buckets as well. So here let's add bucket. So from a board perspective, we have all these different tasks. And let's say you have pre-sales, you have design, etc. So if you want to start classifying your tasks, you can do that as well. So we can add bucket, say for example, called design. Either we can add task directly from here, or we can go back to the grid, and let's say this task 2 belongs to design. So we can just change it from here to design. And when we go back to the board, now we can see it. So we can start building our design boards basically here. We do have the Gantt chart that kind of displays the entire project. So here in this case, we can see depending upon the duration, this is how my project is set up. But here we can set up the relationship between these, so we can kind of drag, drop, so we can fully leverage the capabilities of desktop like controls and these Gantt charts to plan our project. What also happens is, as and when there is time being entered, or then you will be able to see the progress of those, the completion right here in this grid as well. And then ultimately we have the charts. How many tasks are complete, how many are remaining. We can look at it from a bucket perspective, from a person perspective, etc. Next is teams. So whatever resources we add on the tasks tab, automatically it will start to fill in. So if we add multiple generic resources, let's say with different roles, they will all be added here as well. And then we can determine if we want a specific team member on a go forward basis to be the project approver as well, so that when time starts to come in, then these approvers can start approving the time. We do have concept of resource assignment, resource reconciliation. That's a big topic in itself, and we plan on conducting a tech talk that's specifically dedicated to the resource management aspect of project operations. Now that we have defined the tasks and the price lists have already been defined, we are able to see the estimates. So right now we are only seeing the estimate based on the time, but if we add the estimates on the expenses or on the material, those would start to come here as well. So we can either look at it, so we can time phase it by week or day or month or a year as well. And we can look at these prices not only from a cost perspective, but also from a sales perspective as well. And then it will automatically, it will reflect the updated prices that or the revenue that will be getting once the project execution is completed. We have the tracking tab, and when timesheet is being filled in, automatically these percentages complete, effort completed, etc. They will start to fill in. Now, if there are tasks, in this specific case, let's say we estimated for 5 hours, we have entered some time, but we still think it's going to take less time. So let's say rather than 5 hours, it's only going to take 1. So automatically the schedule variances, etc. These things are automatically being calculated so that we can track the overall progress of the contract. The sales tab kind of stores the references that this specific project has. So considering we had 2 contract lines and they're both associated with the same project, so here we are seeing the 2 contract lines. If there was a quote that was associated with the project, that quote can be referenced, will automatically be referenced here as well. Next, we have task billing setup. So right now you don't see an option here, and the reason for that is because task-based billing setup is not set up on the contract line. This refers to the setting that we were looking at, select project tasks or all project tasks. We'll go ahead and take a look at that in a little bit more detail. And then ultimately, we can also look at the actuals. So if there are times that being recorded, we can look at the actuals as well. So let's go back and look at our project contract. So in a project contract line, if we want only specific tasks to be chargeable, then we can just set it to selected project tasks only. And then what happens is, as soon as that's saved, now you can see a new tab appeared here, which is called chargeable tasks. Now here we can start to add the new project contract line task as well. So we have different options. We can select, so this is the contract line ID that we've specified. We can search the tasks. We can specify the billing type, whether these tasks are going to be chargeable or non-chargeable. So either we can set this thing up from the contract line, or we can go back to the project and set it up from there. And then it would also give us an option to look at how many tasks are there, what's associated with a specific billing method. So if we go back to our project, go back to task billing setup. Now here you can see previously we had both of rows in there as well. And considering now we have enabled the task-based billing for the time, that's where you can see that this is being shown now. Here what we can do is we can select a specific line and we can associate it to a specific contract line. So we can select here. So in this case, we want it to be time, billing method. Let's say if this is chargeable or non-chargeable, we can determine. And if you have built up a project and it has multiple child tasks, then you don't need to set it up one by one. You can just select yes, and automatically the contract line will be associated with all those tasks as well. So the possibilities are endless from a setup perspective, and you can basically determine at each and every task level how you want to build it, or how a particular transaction class needs to be built from a contract perspective. What we have done is we have created another project, and we have built out the entire structure. So if we look at a specific, on this specific project, which is additive assemblies, so we have pre-sales and proposal phase, we have prototype phase, installation, and telemetry. Pre-sales is, there is nothing that needs to be built. For prototype, part of it needs to be time and material, part of it needs to be the fixed price. So what we have done here is, for this specific project, let's look at how the project contract is set up. So here we are saying pre-sales and proposal we have specified that the tasks that we have, all the tasks are non-chargeable in this case. Now, once we build that relationship, we can look at how much, what's the estimate of this, and that we can look at it more from a project contract line details perspective. So let's look at a different line. So in this case, let's look at prototype phase, which in this case, for prototype phase, we are billing time as time and material, and expenses will be fixed price. So if you look at the time, we can specify here. So all the tasks are chargeable, but we can also specify, even though tasks are chargeable, but then there might be few roles, say for example, account manager, we never want to charge for those resources as well. So we do have option to configure what roles are chargeable, what roles are non-chargeable, and then the combination of chargeable tasks and roles is what will determine the overall billing. When you look at the project contract line, here you can see that we have 4 options, and this data is automatically being pulled from the project. So what we did was, here we just click on import from project estimate. We specified here, summarize by role, and then click OK, which kind of gets us the total estimate for this specific contract line. Now, what happens over a time period? Time entries will get booked, and then they will start to come in. So if you look at related actuals, so here we can see there was some time entry, so transaction class. So there was some time entry that was booked, and we have the cost and unbilled sales that these lines got created from an actuals perspective, and they are chargeable. Important to note here is, here we can also see that the project, the actual is referencing to a project contract, to a project contract line, to a specific customer. So all the granular details that we put in at the time of, either contract line or at the time of time entry, all that is being tracked. So in this case, the time entry was entered against a design task for a consulting lead role, and that's how the prices are being determined as well. If you look at the contract as a whole, so let's go back to the contract. We can look at the actuals at a contract level as well. So here we can see there are different actuals that have been recorded. So we have so many different contract lines in there, and then we have entered time against, let's say, the pre-sales phase, and then we have also time entered against the prototype phase as well. So when we look at actuals, so we can see here based on our settings, so prototype phase and pre-sales phase. So if we continue to look, first of all, we have cost and unbilled tracked for prototype phase as well as pre-sales phase, because from a time perspective, our billing method is time and material. But considering we don't want anything to be billed or charged from a pre-sales perspective, so here the billing time is determined automatically. So the design tasks are chargeable, and anything that we put in the pre-sales stages is non-chargeable. The last line here, which is cost only, that's being determined because at the time of, from a contract perspective, the time is not being billed, and time is just being tracked internally. It's a fixed price billing method. So, to kind of summarize, you have to create multiple contract lines. Those contract lines can refer to the same project or even to a project. And then you have these endless capabilities by utilizing the transaction class and the included tasks flag to specify how you want that tasks or or contract line to be charged, or you can define the contractual agreements based on a specific contract line. Few things that we also want to cover more from a project perspective is, there are scenarios wherein you already have a project and you want to just leverage it as a template. So the option that we kind of provide out of the box is, you can pick any project and you can click on copy project, and it will automatically take the tasks and the snapshot of this specific project, and will create a new project that you can start to use as a reference. The resources are being replaced, and if there are named resources that's on the original project, they will be replaced with generic resources with the same roles. If you go back to the contract performance, So here we can see, depending upon how time is being entered, etc., everything is kind of being tracked at a contract line level as well. So that kind of concludes the project contract creation and projects. Let's go back to our presentation. So from considering we have data hours and we have D365 finance, these transactions kind of flow from one to another with the help of dual, right? So from a reference perspective, we have provided you, how these entities kind of flow from data hours to the finance and operations apps. So this is just for reference, how billing milestones are being moved, project tasks. We do not build WBS structure within Dynamics 365 Finance. It's only maintained within data hours. But tasks are being copied so that they can be referenced on different activities like the time and expenses. Similarly, project resources, we do capture the rules, but not the actual named resources are not being copied. We do provide a solution on GitHub that you can reference if you have requirement to kind of move resources from DataVerse to Dynamics 365 Finance. Next, let's look at projects and accounting setup. So we have created the project, we have created the project contract. Nowhere we have specified how we want transactions to be captured from a billing perspective, from an accounting perspective. So those setup can be done within D365 Finance. So here I'll log in to D365 Finance. And once this is loaded, we can go to the project management and accounting module that you might be already familiar with, and you can go to the project contracts. So here, these are all the active contracts, and we were looking at the data assemblies. So here we can see if there are multiple projects associated, all that references in there. If you try to edit it here, if you click on this one, you are not able to edit it within Dynamics 365 Finance. It will take you automatically to the data site, so you can edit the contract there. Here we can look at the default accounting, so we can specify the tax groups. If there are multiple funding sources, so which in this case is customer, we can set up those, and we can also set up the financial dimensions. If there are multiple contract lines, then we can also specify the financial dimensions for a specific contract line. So here, these are the ones that we have specified. So this is installation and telemetry, and then we can select it here as well, and we can change it to the other phases as well, and we can specify the financial dimensions. So when transactions are being integrated, automatically these financial dimensions will be inherited on those transactions, and that's how it will be recorded in Dynamics 365 Finance. Here are some of the common contract and billing scenarios that we kind of covered. Whether it's full-time that needs to be billed in a certain way, or part of a project, or in certain cases we don't want to build the project side. We can set up different invoice schedules, different customers. There might be legitimate scenarios in which you might have to create separate projects because the project teams are different, but from a contract perspective, they still needs to be under the same contract. So in that case, you can just create multiple projects and link them to the same project contract. Next, we'll look into the collaboration on projects via Microsoft Teams. So in order to set up the Teams integration, you can log into Power Platform Admin Center, and here under the integration, you can set up the Teams integration settings. Once you are into the settings, then you can select or add any specific record that's available in data hours, and then you can enable chat feature with that specific record. So in this case, we have added project, and when we look at the project here, we can see the project settings. So there are a lot of different settings that can be set up. Let's look at quick demo of Teams integration. Let me go back here. So if we are at a project level, so let me go back to the projects. So here we have our demo project data. So there are different options that we have. The first one is we can just enable chats. So once chat is enabled, all the chats that are linked to this specific project, they can come here. And if you need to collaborate with someone, we can just add them here and start sending messages right from within the project operations. That's one way how we can utilize Teams. The other one is channels. So we can collaborate. So we can have this specific project as a channel within Teams. So in order to do that, once you are at a project level, you can just click on collaborate, follow specific steps. You can create a new team, or you can select one of the existing teams. So in this case, we are selecting product R&D. You can either select an existing channel or create a new channel. And once you have gone through that setup, automatically it will create a new channel within the teams. So once it's all done, then you can come to Teams and you can see here now this project is available as a channel, and the project itself can be accessed directly as a tab on the Teams as well. Now, if you need to collaborate, you can just leverage, how you would leverage Teams, and you can just start posting conversations here as well. Any files, etc., can be stored directly within the Teams. So that's second method. The third one is wherein you want to run Dynamics 365 project operations within Teams. So you don't want to run it in browser. So what you can do here is you can click on these ellipses, find an app. So the app is called Dynamics 365. So you can select that, hit add, and then after going through a setup, it will ask you for a specific environment, what kind of app do you want, etc. Automatically, it will bring in the project operations directly here. And here, considering I've already set this up, so my environment and my app is automatically being selected. But if you need to go do either time entry, or if you need to look at projects, etc., we can do directly within the Teams. We don't need to use it from a browser perspective. All right. Next, we are going to time entry. So, quick reference of different processes that are related to time entry. Some of them being submission of time entry, recall, etc. From a time entry flow perspective, when we look at it, a user creates a time entry. Now, depending upon whether it's project-specific time entry or non-project specific, the approval mechanism kind of changes. So if it's non-project, the approval request is sent to the user's manager, which you can set it up in the Power Platform Admin Center. If it's project specific, then it goes to one of the project approvers. Now, if it's approved, it will automatically create. If the project time is being approved, actuals are created automatically. If the non-project time is being approved, then it will automatically, the booking will get created in terms of vacations or absence. User or the approver does have option to reject. Once it's rejected, it automatically goes back to the submitted entry. User does have an option to recall the time entries as well. And the recall is possible until the time entry is invoiced. So the end user still have an option to recall timesheets even after it's approved. If it's approved, then it needs to go through recall approval process, which depending upon whether it's approved or rejected, user will be able to edit their timesheets. What we do create is general lines. So whenever a user creates time entry, we do create general lines automatically based on the billing method. So cost and unbilled sales is being recorded. From a time entry states perspective, so we kind of saw, time entry flow. So it kind of moves from draft to submitted, and it can be either approved, uh, and approved can be, recall is requested, and then once it recall requested is, approved, then it becomes returned. If it's not, it automatically goes back to the approved status. Now, behind the scenes, when these different processes are kind of taking place, we do track the approval record status as well. And there is a little bit of difference in terms of statuses between the time entry record status as well as the approval record status. And then the difference basically is the recall status. So the approval record status may have either recall requested, and if it's approved, then it's recall approved or recall rejected. Whereas the time entry record status will automatically change to return, which will then change it to submitted, approved. So finally, that's what it will retain, and this flow will get started all over again. There is a quick snapshot of how time entries look within Dynamics 365 project operations. With that, let's take a look at how we can do time entry within project operations. So here, under the project area, we have time entries. So here is the default view. So here, for a given week, I can look at all my timesheet entries that I put in. Now we do have option to specify it for a given project associated with a specific task. In what role that time is being entered, and then we can specify. These are the different statuses. And here you can see here. We for this specific combination of dimensions. So we call these as dimensions. So right now, for this specific project, for this specific role, there was time entered on, 7:17 for 1 hour, and then, 7:19 and so on and so forth. If any of these dimensions varies, you will see the additional records being created underneath as well. Behind the scenes, if you look at it, so even from a UI perspective, this record looks like one from a user perspective, but behind the scenes, these are separate records. So here you will have, since we have entered 5 different days for which time is being entered, so you will see 5 different records in there. In order to go enter a new one, so we can click on new, we can put in date, time. So for 7:17, let's say for this, we are adding time for demo project. We can select the project. These are the fields that we have added as part of an extension, which we covered in more detail in the sales and inception TechTalk. We can also put in the external comments. Let's see. So once the time is entered, now we can see here, we can kind of see it directly here. This notation on the cell means there are comments. Now, if needed, we can add additional time right in this grid. So now we have just entered 2. We can select this specific line. We do have an option to either copy row or edit row, etc. If you need to add, let's say, a specific comments regarding this line, you can just click on edit entry and you can put in external comments here. If there are other attributes that needs to be changed, you have an option. Either you can just delete it from here, or you can click on open entry, which will kind of give you a lot more navigation in terms of what fields are available. You can change them and then either submit it directly from here, or you can just save. All right, so let's go ahead. So let's take this, go ahead and submit. So now once it's submitted, considering it was project related, it will be available under approvals. So here we have the time that's being entered. So we get to select all of them. We can hit approve. or reject, and user does have an option to change the billable quantities here as well, just in case, if you want to bill less to the customer. So once it's approved, the stage will automatically change from submitted to approved. Now, once that's done, for any of the line, we can pick one, say for example in this one, and we can recall it as well. So we can just highlight this specific cell, and now this recall is enabled. We can click on recall. Considering this line is already approved, we can put in the reasons for recall. Once that's entered, we can go back to the approval. The option is available under recall request for approval. So here we will have that option. Now we can either approve, reject, and then automatically it will determine the stage whether will allow user to make changes or no. So this is a custom control that's specifically catering to the timesheets. If you plan on extending time entries, there are a couple of things that you need to be aware of. You want those fields to be editable, non-editable, depending upon the state. Also, if there are, in terms of validation rule, whether you want that specific rule to be specific to the timesheet, or you want it to be applicable across different timesheets. You can also leverage the copy timesheet entry columns view if you plan on copying, timesheets. And then from a solution perspective, if you want to look at, what all schema elements are available to you, you can just look at TESA solution that will provide you different tables and other artifacts. Next, we want to look at approval sets. So approval sets basically allows you to approve time asynchronously. So, in order to approve or enable this feature, you can just go to parameters of project operations and enable the modern approvals. Then once it's enabled, then you get an option to specify the threshold here. What that means basically is that when you enter timesheets and when that timesheet is being approved, considering there may be a lot of rows that needs to be updated from an approval perspective. So either we want that process to be synchronous or asynchronous. If the number of records that's there for approval, the threshold is less than 10 in this specific case, they will get approved synchronously. Otherwise, it will go through the batch process and then they will get approved in the batches. Behind the scenes, we leverage approval sets. So here you can see, this is an approval set, and there are all these lines that have been approved that are now part of this approval set, waiting to be processed. Once it's processed, the approval set will be blank. And if you want to look at the details, you can look at the system jobs within Power Platform Admin Center to see how that processing is going. Behind the scenes, it leverages Power Automate Cloud Flow, and that's how these approvals are being processed. Quick snapshot of approval set once the records have been approved or updated. Next, we want to look at actuals. So it's important to understand the concept of transaction class. So business transaction is an abstract concept that is not represented by any entity in project operations. However, some common fields and processes on entities are designed to use the concept of business transactions. The following entities uses this abstraction. So you might be aware of, we can create quote lines, contract lines, estimate lines, and then we have concept of journal lines and actuals. So when we look at project from an estimation phase perspective, whenever we are creating quote, contract, or estimate lines, they are kind of considered the financial forecast for a project, or we can also kind of link them to the estimation phase. And then once the project is, transactions are occurring on the project, then that becomes the financial facts, or we can also classify them as execution phase. From a business transactions concepts perspective, I think it's important to understand transaction type, transaction classes, origin, and connection. As part of our demonstration today, we looked at the transaction types and transaction classes. Next, we'll look into the transaction origin and transaction connections as well. So from an actuals perspective, whenever time is being entered, previously we saw, we are creating journal lines. So depending upon the billing method, if it's time and material, then we are creating the cost journal line as well as the sales journal line as well. And then the journal lines map to the time. Now, once it's approved, timesheets are approved, then we create the cost actual as well as the unbilled sale actual, and then we are linking all together. So this unbilled sale is linked to the time as well as it's linked to the journal line. So behind the scenes, these transaction origin are being stored as well. And similarly, when the invoice line gets created, when the invoice is confirmed, invoice corrections are confirmed, all these transaction origin, they are maintained in the system. We also have concept of transaction connection. So, draft timesheet is created, it's submitted for approval, timesheet is approved. So the actual, whenever there are transactions that are being recorded, they kind of refer to each other. So let's say, we have timesheet approved. So we created cost and actual unbilled sale. When the invoice is confirmed, the transition reverses and automatically a link is being maintained within the system for all these transactions to maintain the financial integrity. Now, the reason why it's important to understand these things is we do not want our customers or partners to modify or start, inputting records directly in the actuals table. So if we need to get the actuals, then it's important to leverage either the journals or the appropriate mechanism. So, if it's either it can be expenses or it can be time entries that needs to be posted so that we can start getting those actuals automatically. Now, depending upon the engagement type, we can have internal projects. So depending upon the engagement type, these are some of the actual types that automatically will get generated. We also put together integrated entities from a data architecture perspective. So this is how the actuals gets transferred from Dataverse to F&O. For build sales, there is a different flow, and we'll be covering it as part of our invoicing tech talk. We've also put together a lot of resources for you that you can review. It also has links to previous tech talk as well, and you can refer to our project operations tech talk series for different topics. Provided a couple of useful links for licensing guide. And that concludes our presentation for today. So back to the host.
Thank you, Satish. I've posted a link to a short survey in the Q&A panel. We'd love to hear your feedback on today's session and hear what you'd like to see in future events. Thank you for your participation. I'd like to extend a big thank you to our presenter, Satish Panwar, and to our audience for joining us today. We hope you have a great rest of the day ahead.